The other approach to looking at, which data values occur more is to look at their relative frequency. And again, the relative frequency is not the sheer number of occurrences of that data value, but the proportion of data values that are this one, or percentage of data values that happen to be this one. How do you get the proportion or percent of the times that back was a data value? Well, you take the frequency and divide by the total number of data values. Okay, so 12 of the 30 data values were the back. Okay, so that's its proportion or percent or relative frequency. Now we typically do these as decimals, so you'll use a calculator here. So we get 0.4 for this one. And let me just remind you all that we're going to do this in decimal form, but just let me remind you that to convert a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal point over 2 places. So this would be the same thing as saying 40% of the data values are the back. But and you'll see relative frequencies expressed as percents as well sometimes. Okay. So let's go on. For the wrist, we said there were 2 occurrences. Okay, so we'll divide 2 by 30, and you'll use a calculator for this, of course. You should get 0.0667. For the elbow, we said there was 1 occurrence. So 1 out of the 30 occurrences is the elbow. And if you divide 1 by 30 on a calculator, you should get 0.0333. And then just going on, filling this in. You can work ahead of me if you want. For the hip, we'll have 2 out of 30. We've already done that division and gotten 0.0667. For the shoulder, let's see the number of occurrences of the shoulder, and notice that I'm looking back at my frequency distribution here to get these numbers. So shoulder, there were 4 occurrences. 4/30ths of the data values were shoulder. Do a division with a calculator to get a decimal for that, and you should get 0.1667. For the this one is actually, you should get 0.1333. Okay, going on to the knee. For the knee, there were 5 occurrences, so 5/30ths of the data values were knee, and doing the division there, that's where you'll get 0.1667. Okay, for the hand, 2 of the 30 data values were hand. We've already done that division. You get 0.0667. Groin and neck were both 1/30th of the data values, and we've done that division as well up here. 1 divided by 30 turned out to be 0.0333. Again, you're going to use a calculator when you do this. A check on whether we did all this correctly. The total here of these decimals should work out to be 1. As it does, right? We should have 30/30ths here, which is a 1, and you can check that your decimal calculations were correct by checking that the decimals added up to 1. Okay, and we can make a bar graph for this information as well, which would be a relative frequency bar graph. What is being recorded on the vertical axis then is relative frequency. The horizontal axis again is what body part was rehabilitated. Rehabilitated. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we're graphing relative frequency. We said the relative frequency of back rehabilitation was 0.4, so I'm going to go up to 0.4. So So 0.4 or 40% of the data values were back. For the wrist, we said 0.0667. Let's see, we're going to have to eyeball this a little bit. This would be, that would be about there. For elbow, we got 0.033. So let's see, here's 0.05, so 0.033 would be somewhere like that. For the hip, we got 0.0667. Let's see, that's the same as wrist, so those should be at the same height. For shoulder, we had 1.333, so let's see, this would be about 1.5, so go down a little to about 1 and 0.33. For knee, we got 1.667, so that's going to be, again, here's 0.1, here's 0.2, so in between is 0.15. I want 0.16, so up just a little bit from 0.15. Hand, for hand we got 0.0667, that's the same as hip, so I'm just going to go straight along from hip. And for groin and neck, we both got 0.0333, which is the same as elbow. So those should be at the same height as elbow. And again, with gaps between the rectangles or bars. Okay, so there is our relative frequency bar graph. Okay, it's now your turn. I've given you a table showing the movement of Walt Disney stock prices for 30 randomly selected trading days. I'd like you to decide what's the variable, what are the data values, construct a frequency distribution and a bar graph, and a relative frequency distribution and a bar graph. So please, please, please do this on your own before you watch the next video. I'll start the next video by going over this for you, but it won't do you nearly as much good as doing it on your own, even if you make mistakes.